Hello everyone and welcome to the video, and today we're going to be going over an in-depth and advanced Bangalore guide. This is going to be an Apex Predator Bangalore guide, so it will help you if you are just a beginner or if you're just trying to master her. This is going to be the perfect guide for you. But before we get into the video, I would like to ask you guys to not only drop a sub here, but to follow me on Twitch. I'll put the link in the description. It would help me out a lot, and I would really appreciate it. So the first thing we always go over in these guides is the Legend's actual abilities. So first up, we have Bangalore's passive, which is called Double Time. It grants you a temporary boost of speed when you get shot at. Next up, we have her tactical, which is the smoke launcher. This is basically just a smoke screen, and you have two of them. And then last but not least, we have Rolling Thunder, which is an airstrike that is spread out across the ground that will explode once all missiles are landed. So first thing up we have to talk about is her passive, which is probably one of the best passives in the entire game. Her double time can activate once every 2 seconds, so once you get shot at, you'll get a speed boost for about a second, and then it will take another second for it to reset. So it is a little bit of a cooldown, but either way, it grants her so much mobility, especially when you're fighting. So one of the best tips I can give for you guys is just make sure that you're incorporating a nice strafe into your gunfights, because you are going to have this bonus movement speed, and you'll be able to fly around basically, and you'll have such a good strafe. It's basically the same thing as an octane stim, so you'll be granted a pretty much random movement speed burst, which will kind of throw off the enemy's aim, because you'll go from running normally to full speed. And like I said, when you throw in that strafe, you go back and forth really quickly, and that's why I like to pair Bangalore with SMGs and shotguns, because the strafe is very quick whenever you're using weapons like this. So you're going to see a lot of success if you maximize the use of her double time, because like I said, it's one of the best passives in the entire game. So there's not really much else to say about it other than that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is her tactical, or her smoke launcher, and there's literally a million uses for it. So the first use I want to talk about is using it to rotate. A lot of Bangalores will shoot the smoke in front of them when they're rotating if they're being shot at, but I feel like it's much better, especially if you're being shot at from like a high ground position, or an entire team is just looking at you from the same spot. You can smoke them instead, and that way you can safely rotate your entire team, because they will not be able to see through the smoke. So in certain situations this might not work, especially if you're being pushed, because they'll just run right through the smoke, and in that case you just want to smoke in front of you instead. So it is a little bit situational, but I would say about 90% of the time you're going to get a lot more use if you just smoke the enemy instead, because they will not be able to see you, and they will have to push off of their position, and if they're holding high ground, 9 out of 10 times they're not going to give up that position, so you'll be completely free to rotate and your entire team will get by. It's very effective, especially on open maps like Olympus and the new map Stormpoint. You will get a lot of utility out of it, and her smokes are definitely one of the best parts of her kit in general, so you want to just make sure that you're using them effectively. So another tip I have for you guys is to just basically smoke whenever you are doing literally anything. One of the best philosophies to go by when you're playing Bang is it's better to be safe than sorry. So in this case, you just want to make sure that whatever activity you're doing where you might get shot at, you just want to make sure you're smoking. So a couple of these examples would be smoking while rezzing. Obviously, if you just finished a fight or you're mid-fight, you can smoke your down teammate. They won't be able to see you, and you'll be able to get a res off. So it's nice when you pair a Bangalore with Gold Bag as well, because she is going to be rezzing in her smokes a lot. And another one is, as you guys may know, we play third-party Legends. So you get third-party literally all the time, and then fourth party, and then fifth party. So whenever you finish a fight and you're just trying to reset and loot the boxes, you just want to make sure you're smoking the boxes, just because you never know who's looking, and since you created so much noise, you just want to really cover all your bases and just make 100% sure that you're not going to get team fried, because they won't really be able to see you that well through smokes, and by the time they get up close in digital threat range, you'll be able to hear their footsteps. So another use of her smoke is just to do it while scanning beacons as well, or while healing. A lot of times mid-fight you'll get fried and you need to hit a battery. Just make sure you're throwing a smoke down, because it could save your life, and it most likely will save your life, because people won't be able to track you as well. They won't be able to see you, and you'll be able to get a bat off much easier. So another tip I have for you guys is to always run digital threats. And this is why it's important to run SMGs and shotguns as well, because you can run digital threats on Bangalore, and a good Bangalore is always going to play in her smokes and dance around. So you just want to make sure that you are playing in your smokes as a Bangalore. It's one of her strongest parts of her kit. You just want to make sure that you are smoking and then playing around in it and just running around with double time. You're going to be fast. You're going to be able to navigate the smoke very easily. You'll be able to shoot people through it with digital threat, and you will be able to win a lot more gunfights. And that brings me to my next tip, which is one of the most important ones for Bangalore. So if you're on console, or if you play on controller, this is going to be one of the best tips that you can do on Bangalore to help you win gunfights 9 out of 10 times. So basically, if you use Bangalore smoke and you play at the edge of it, you sit at the edge of the smoke where you can kind of see out of it, when paired with a digital threat, you will be able to track enemies with aim assist. Now, you don't always get aim assist just because depending on where you are in the smoke, it will actually take it away from you, but regardless, you will be able to see the enemy with the digital threat, and you will have aim assist, and anyone shooting at you, they will be shooting in smoke, so they will lose aim assist. And when you kind of exploit this and the way that her smokes work, you can absolutely fry, especially if you're on console. This makes Bangalore probably one of the best legends to play on console because you can completely take away someone's aim assist and you will still have it and fry them. So you just want to make sure if you are a Bangalore, play at the edge of your smokes. I promise you it is one of the most effective ways of using Bangalore. One thing to note is that it's very important to know who you're fighting and the legends you're fighting against. So as you guys are aware, it is a very heavy scan meta in Apex. You have legends like Seer and Bloodhound that are able to completely shut you down in your smoke. So you just want to make sure you're not griefing your team. And this is one of the reasons why Bangalore gets kind of a bad rep and people don't believe she's that good, is because Bloodhound is being played heavily. But you can easily play around this if you just shoot a little bit less smokes. You don't want to grief your team. Not everyone is going to be playing that Bangalore playstyle. They're not going to have digital threats, and if you're playing against a Bloodhound, he's going to scan, and if you just have like 2 smokes all over the place and you're just smoking everywhere, your teammates are probably going to die, and you're probably going to grief their entire game. So you just want to make sure you're not too trigger happy with it, especially if you are playing against a Bloodhound. It's probably better off that you don't try to smoke fight against a Bloodhound. He's going to scan, especially if he's in his ult. You're not going to be able to kill him. Bloodhound's probably going to fry you 90% of the time just because they can see directly through the smoke. So you just want to make sure you're very careful and aware of who exactly you're fighting against, because you could potentially put your entire team in danger and handicap them. So the next thing I want to talk about is Bangalore's ultimate, and this is a really good part of her kit as well. I feel like a lot of people don't know how to use it, so that's the first thing I want to talk about, is how her ult actually works. So a lot of people don't realize how the missiles come down or in what direction, but basically whatever direction you're facing is the way they're going to come down, and wherever you throw the Bangalore ult, the flare, directly where it lands is where the missiles are going to start coming down, and they will go forward from there. So if you throw it at your feet, you're probably not going to reach the enemy, or if you throw it over the enemy, it's not going to hit them at all. So you just want to make sure that you know how it works, because it's going to help you out a lot in exactly where you should be placing it. So there are actually 3 different ways to use Bangalore's ult, and there's the offensive way, there's the defensive way, and then there's the zoning way. So her ult is actually one of the best ults in the game at removing people from high ground. So we're going to talk about the offensive way first, obviously. And this is really effective way of using it. Basically, if there's an enemy on high ground, which there always is, it's just the way the game is played. A lot of people will sit on high ground and they will literally exploit it the whole time and just sit up there and not move. It will make it very difficult to push this team. However, you can counter it by throwing your ult, and when paired with Horizon, you can take the high ground from the enemy immediately, because the ultimate will force them to either get hit by the airstrike or leave the high ground. And when you can kind of put them in that situation, you know, the stun is like 8 seconds long. So if they do decide to get hit by it, you can horizon lift up or zip line up or however you want to. You can take the high ground from them and they will be stunned for so long. Bangalore's ult has one of the longest stuns in the entire game, lasting almost 10 seconds, which is absolutely ridiculous. And when paired with 40 damage and potentially more if they get caught by multiple of the missiles, you're going to be able to take that high ground and kill them for free if they decide to stay up there. So this makes Bangalore one of the best legends at taking high ground, right up there with Gibraltar. There is another way of using it offensively, and this is just throwing it mid-fight. It's very basic, but you know, it could help, especially if you're in an open field and enemies will have nowhere to go. They will kind of be stuck in that airstrike. And like I said before with the stuns, you just want to make sure that if you do get ticks on it, you make sure you want to capitalize and push them immediately, because they will be stunned for a long time. So the next use for ultimate is to use it defensively. So we'll say you're in a situation where your teammate gets knocked. You just want to make sure that you throw your airstrike immediately, maybe 10 feet from your teammate so you don't get hit by the missiles, and smoke immediately. And when you do this, 9 times out of 10 you'll be able to get a successful res, unless they are very close to you and close the distance immediately, or they have legends like Pathfinder and they can grapple over, or Ash and portal right through. But most of the time this is a very effective way of resetting a fight, especially if they get a knock, and it's a great way of using it defensively. So another tip I have for you guys is to use it while you're running away. If you are ever running away from a fight and enemies are chasing you, if you throw it directly at your feet, by the time all the missiles come down, you will be able to get through it, but anyone chasing you will get hit by it. So it will force them to either get hit by the airstrike, which in that case you can turn around and absolutely fry them, or you can continue running because they'll be stunned for 8 seconds. So this is a really great way of creating distance, especially if you're, like I said, running from a team. You'll be able to make a lot of distance, and with this paired with Smokes and her double time, she's going to fly right out of there, and she's going to be very hard to catch. So in general, Bangalore is one of the best legends at getting away. So another tip I have for you guys is to make sure you have your Bangalore ult for end game. If you are playing in high-level lobbies such as Master or Pred lobbies, you are very familiar with the fact that a lot of times it comes down to those final zones. And if you have your Bangalore ult in this case, there is a good chance you're going to cover the entire zone, forcing the enemy to have no other choice but to get hit by it. So I remember one time I had this one clip. I don't know if I still have it. If I still have it, I will include it in the video. But basically, I was in the end zone. I threw my bang ult, timed it right, and I hit 8 people with the bang ult. 8 people, that is almost 3 entire squads, and we ended up winning the game because we also had a crypto. So we had a 9-man EMP and an 8-man bang strike, and we were able to roll the last 3 teams very, very easily. It was so free. It was the freest win in my entire life. So you just want to make sure you're not saving the bang ult all game, but you want to make sure that you have it for the end game. It is one of the best ults you can have at the end of the game, and it will help you out so much. Another tip I have for you guys is to use the Bangalore ult when resetting off third parties. So like I said before, it's very common for you to get third-partied in this game, so if you hear a third party coming, it's very important to just throw your ultimate immediately and help your team reset with smokes as well. This is going to give you guys a lot of time because the enemy won't be able to push you immediately, and if they do, like I said, they're going to be stuck in that airstrike and they're going to potentially throw their entire game. So it's very, very good for stopping third parties, which is one of the best things that you can have. Because you get third-partied so many times, and a lot of times it's completely out of your control whether or not you're going to live or die in that situation, since the other team has such a big advantage. And the last tip I have for you guys is to use it for zoning. Zoning is a little bit hard to explain, but basically it can be summed up by if you don't want a team in a certain position, you can force them to go a different way. So if the zone's getting smaller and you know there's going to be a team trying to rotate behind you, you can throw the ultimate behind you and force them to go a different way. So this is very situational, but basically if you're ever in a situation where you need to make sure an enemy doesn't rotate through a certain part, you just want to kind of zone them out with your airstrike. So I think that's pretty much it for today's video. If I forgot anything, just comment below, but I really hope this guide helps you, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.